In this video, I'm going to walk you through the most common beginner DJ mistakes that I see people make on the DDJ-FLX4. These aren't complicated techniques or advanced tricks. These are simple habits and decisions that if you get wrong early on in your DJ career, will massively slow your progress and make your mixes sound amateurish. Fix them and your DJ will sound way cleaner, more confident, and more professional. My name is DJ Blakey and I've taught over 1,000 DJs how to level up their mixing and scratching. So let's get into it. Okay, mistake number one is relying on sync too much. Now, I'm not going to say that you shouldn't ever use sync because I use sync all of the time. But I think it's a massive mistake to use sync when you don't understand how to mix manually properly. So let me show you a drill that you can practice that's going to help you out so much in your DJ career. So here in Rekordbox, I've got two tracks loaded into the decks and they're 1 BPM apart. The track on the left deck is running at 127 and the track on the right deck is running at 128. I'm going to mix these two tracks together, and because the BPMs aren't perfectly matched, the track on the left deck is going to slowly fall out of sync with the track on the right deck. And the drill is to push the jog wheel to get it back in time whenever it falls out of time. This is such an important skill to learn as early as you can, because the problem is if you rely on sync too much, often the software gets it wrong. So you could press sync, but actually all it does is make the mix worse, because sync relies on the beat grids being correct and accurate. And the beat grids are these white lines on the waveform at the start of every kick drum. I would say 10 times out of 100, the software does not get these beat grids correct. And in that scenario, if you were to press sync, it's actually just going to make the mix clang, train wreck, and you're going to sound like a complete amateur. So understanding how to push a track to get it back in time is super important. Mistake number two is abusing effects. Effects are great and they can add so much to a DJ set, but so often I see beginner DJs just hammer the effects and use them way too much. Here on the DDJ-FLX4, you have a feature called Smart CFX right here. So let's turn that on. And Smart CFX are combination effects built into Rekordbox that you can trigger just by moving this dial right here. You can choose which Smart CFX you'd like to use by holding Shift and then pressing the Smart CFX button, which will bring up the Smart CFX menu in Rekordbox. Let's choose Phantom Echo. Now let me show you an example of how it would sound if you overused the Phantom Echo Smart CFX. So all I'm doing here is constantly triggering that Phantom Echo Smart CFX. And honestly, this just doesn't sound good, but I see people using effects in this way all the time. When really, effects should be there to complement the music or to use as a tool to transition from one track to the other. So now take a listen to how I would use the Phantom Echo Smart CFX to leave a nice echo tail on the end of a track to then transition into a new song. So all I did there was use the Phantom Echo to end the track on the left deck so that it would smoothly transition into the next track on the right deck. When it comes to using effects, subtlety is key. The effects are supposed to be there to complement the music, not drown it out. The next common mistake is ignoring phrasing. And as a beginner DJ, it is so vital that you understand the phrasing of the music that you're playing. But fortunately, it is quite simple. So let me show you. Music is made up of beats and bars. There are 4 beats per bar and there are 8 bars per phrase. I'm going to play this track in Recordbox and I'm going to count along with every beat. And on the screen, I'm also going to show you the bar that we're currently in. And then at the end of this 32 beat or 8-bar phrase, you will see why it is so important to understand phrasing. If you're a beginner DJ and your phrasing is off with your mixing, it is the biggest giveaway that you're an amateur. So understanding this is crucial. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So you see what has happened at the end of that 32 beat phrase? We went from the start of the breakdown at the beginning of that 32 beat phrase, and at the end of it, the breakdown finishes and we go into the drop. Every 32 beats or 8 bars, the music changes. And if you don't line up the phrases of your tracks correctly, it is just going to sound completely wrong. Fortunately, this doesn't take too long to learn, and you'll very quickly start to understand this instinctively. You won't need to count along with every song you ever play as a DJ. This is just something that you need to learn early on, and then you'll naturally pick it up and start to understand the phrasing of music as you're listening to it. Now, if you want some structured guidance on how to start mixing properly on your DDJ-FLX4, I've got a beginner to pro course linked in the description that shows you exactly how to use it properly, step by step. Next up is not using EQs and the gains properly when you're mixing. Let's take a listen to what it sounds like with both tracks dropping at the same time, with all of the EQs at 12 o'clock and the gains at the same level. This will sound like a bit of a mess, but then I'll show you what it sounds like when you get the EQs and the levels just right. Because we have all of the EQs up at the 12 o'clock position, that means there's too much bass happening. That means all of the high end of both tracks is coming out at the same time, plus both volumes for each track are at the same level. Now, this doesn't necessarily sound terrible, but take a listen to what it sounds like when I adjust the EQs so that the focus is more on the track on the right deck, and I slightly decrease the gain of the track on the left deck. And then whilst they're mixing, I'm going to swap over the EQs and also swap over the gain so that the focus naturally drifts from the track on the right deck into the track that I'm mixing into. It's subtle, but this will sound way more pro. So I'm going to start off by reducing the bass, the mid, and the high of the track on the left deck, but you could do this with just the bass if you like. And I also have the gain set slightly lower than the track on the right deck. Let's take a listen. So right now the focus is on this track. Let's slowly bring the EQs across. I've slightly decreased the gain on the right deck too. Let's bring the bass down. And then fade out the track on the right deck. It's all about balancing the sound and the sonics of each track, and also using the gains and the EQs to subtly and gradually mix from one track into the other. Not using the EQs at all is something I see quite often, but using them properly is one of the quickest ways to make your sets sound more professional. Now let's talk about library organization, because a messy DJ library in your DJ software will just create messy sets. If you're a beginner DJ, this is something that you really should start learning as early as you can, because the sooner you learn it, the better the habits will be that you build as you start adding music to your DJ software of choice. Now, the simplest way of doing this is just by making sure that you make brand new playlists whenever you have a new gig or you're bringing a new genre of music into your DJ software. So let's say you've just downloaded a bunch of UK garage tracks. Inside Recordbox, let's click on the playlists icon right here. And then just to the right of playlists, you've got this plus icon. Let's click on that. And this has made a brand new playlist. So let's call this one UK Garage. And this is where you put in all of that new UK garage that you've just downloaded from your favorite music store. You can also make a brand new folder. So if I right click on playlists here in Recordbox and then click on create new folder, we could call this dance music. and then we could drag our UK Garage playlist into the dance music folder. And now let's make a brand new playlist, and let's call this one Drum and Bass. And then we can drag our Drum and Bass playlist into the dance music folder. This is a very simple trick, but if you're a beginner DJ, getting into this habit early is going to help you keep your music library way cleaner and way easier to use. I actually have a completely free mini course all about how pro DJs find music in 2026 and then build out a professional DJ library in Rekordbox and Serato. It's completely free, and if you want to grab it, just click the link down in the description, type in your email, and I'll send it straight to your inbox. Another huge mistake I see beginner DJs make is they download poor quality music files. See, here's the thing. If you're buying music from a reputable online store like Beatport or Amazon Music, those files will be high quality without a doubt. But when you start getting music from dodgy download sites, even if it says in the metadata that the quality of the MP3 is 320, that actually doesn't necessarily mean it is actually 320. And believe me when I say, if you play an MP3 that is low quality, like 128 or 192, this is without a doubt noticeable for the crowd, especially if you're playing on a big sound system. Low quality files, they cut off a lot of the high-end frequencies, which may not be too noticeable out of your laptop speakers or your small speakers with your DJ controller. But on a big club sound system, it is so obvious. It almost sounds like the track is being played through a sock. So my advice would be to stick to reputable download sites and stay away from YouTube rips and dodgy download sites, because nothing gives away an amateur DJ more than hearing them playing low quality files. We can tell. Another mistake I see DJs make all the time, even professional DJs, is they redline their tracks whilst they're playing them. Now, when I say redlining, let's play the track. I'm talking about this VU meter right here. And any DJ equipment will have a VU meter on each channel. So you can see the bottom two lights are green. The one that it's currently hitting is yellow. And then above that, watch what happens when I turn up the trim or the gain on this deck. So now we're hitting the red. Now, this might not be noticeable at home, but on a club sound system, this is so important. If you feed a redlining signal into club equipment, such as a mixer or a sound desk, that can be hugely detrimental to the audio equipment that they're using at that venue. Believe it or not, I've turned up at gigs where professional DJs have been playing before me, and all of the EQs and the trims are set to full. And I know a lot of people watching this video who DJ in clubs and bars will have experienced the same thing. And what's crazy is they're often doing this because the music in the venue is not loud enough. But trust me, any crowd would rather listen to music that's slightly lower volume, but is clear and doesn't hurt their ears. If you find yourself in that situation, the best thing to do is to go over to the sound engineer and ask them to turn it up from their side, because 9 times out of 10, they will be able to do this. My rule is never let your EQs go above 12 o'clock, and always keep your trim so that the VU meter is only hitting the orange. Just like this. The next mistake I see DJs make is trying to mix every genre too early. Mixing between different genres of music, which are different BPMs, is actually quite an advanced skill. And if you're a beginner, my advice would be to stick to one style of music, which is in one tempo range. Learn the fundamentals with that style of music, and then you can use those fundamental skills to progress into mixing multiple genres together. Mixing multiple genres requires skills like wide BPM transitions, when you manually increase the tempo of both tracks whilst they're synced together, so that you could mix from, say, 130 BPM to 150. This is pretty simple to do once you know how, but if you try and perform a skill like that without actually understanding the fundamentals of DJing, then you're just sprinting before you can actually walk. The best thing to do is stick to one style of music, whether that's house or drum and bass or UK garage or hip hop. Learn how to mix that confidently and competently, and then move on to multi-genre open format mixing. Another trap I see DJs fall into is they watch too many tutorials instead of actually getting on the decks and practicing. And the reason for that is simple. Learning to DJ from scratch can be intimidating at first. It requires a lot of coordination, it requires a lot of practice, but the truth is you don't actually have to practice that much to progress and get better at DJing. If you're a beginner, I'd recommend practicing for 20 minutes a day, drilling things like beat matching, using the EQs, using effects like the beat effects here or the smart C effects. And I would also practice nudging the track manually to get it back in time like I showed you earlier in this video. And then I can guarantee you what's going to happen next is you're going to start making progress way quicker than you think. And that's going to fuel you with excitement and confidence, which is going to help you progress even faster. Putting in 20 minutes of focused work is going to create a compound snowball effect, which will make you level up super quick. Something else to avoid is playing the same music as everybody else. Now, don't get me wrong, if you're playing at a party or a venue, quite often there will be a number of people in that venue who want to hear music that they know and love. But that doesn't mean you can't inject some of your own creativity and identity into your set. Because music choice is a part of your identity as a DJ, and digging for music that nobody else is going to play really matters. I'd recommend a website called Bandcamp, which is where independent artists upload their own music to sell directly to their fans. I have found so much great music that I never would have found if I wasn't browsing on Bandcamp. They have all different styles of music, so whatever you're into, I guarantee you with a little bit of digging and patience, you're going to find some music that you love that no other DJ is going to be playing at the same party as you. Music selection is also a way of standing out without crazy technical tricks. But most importantly, it's fun to dig for music that nobody else has. SoundCloud is also great for this, so my advice would be to start with those two platforms and start digging for tracks. And finally, a huge mistake I see people make all the time when they're performing live is they don't pay enough attention to the crowd in front of them. And this could be at any gig. It could be a house party, it could be a wedding, it could be a club. It is so important to study the crowd's reaction to every single song that you play and then adjust accordingly to try and give the right style of music and the right vibe of music to the people in the room. Fundamentally, this is what a DJ does, and it's only something that can really be learned through experience. So if you love DJing and you're new to it, my advice would be to say yes to a house party gig or small event so that you can start getting that experience by playing music, studying the reaction of the people on the dance floor, and then learning where you need to go from there to create the best party possible. This is what separates bedroom DJs from real DJs. If you found this video useful and you would like to check out a deep dive on how to start DJing as a beginner in 2026, I recommend this video right here, which will break down in detail how to master the fundamentals of DJing so that you can learn properly from scratch.